Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video I'll be predicting the 2021 MLB standings and record predictions. Watch until the end to find out. If you're new, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on that notification bell to be notified of all new videos in the future. Let's get this video started. The New York Yankees, 97-65. The New York Yankees had a good season last year, but they weren't as good as they could have been. They won 33 games and lost 27 in the shortened season last year. They made the playoffs last season and lost against the Tampa Bay Rays in 5 games in the ALDS. The Yankees have one of the best offenses in the league this season and could be unstoppable. Last season they scored the 4th most runs in baseball last year. New York has a top 10 starting rotation this season and also has one of the best bullpens in the league too. So my prediction is that the New York Yankees will win the AL East and will be one of the best teams in the American League. The Tampa Bay Rays, 88-74. The Tampa Bay Rays had a tremendous season last year by going to their first World Series appearance since the 2008 season. In the World Series last year, they played against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and unfortunately they lost that series in 6 games. In the shortened season, they won 40 games and lost 20 games last year. Their offense could be pretty good this season. Last season, their offense scored 289 runs and ranked 12th in the league. Their rotation could struggle this season with the loss of Blake Snell and Charlie Morton. Maybe their rotation could surprise us this season. If there's any team capable of finding a way to get the most out of Chris Archer, Rich Hill, and MILWAUKEE, it's the Tampa Bay Rays. They do have a top 10 bullpen this season and will be lights out. So my prediction is that the Tampa Bay Rays will be a great team again this season and could be a wildcard team this year. The Toronto Blue Jays, 85-77. The Toronto Blue Jays had a great season last year by making the playoffs for the first time since the 2016 season. In the playoffs, they played against the Tampa Bay Rays and got swept in 2 games. In the shortened season, they won 32 games and lost 28. The Toronto Blue Jays have a really great offense for this season and could be one of the best offenses in the league this year. Last year, their offense scored 302 runs and ranked 7th in that category in the league. The Blue Jays starting rotation won't be the best or the worst in the league, but they will be in the middle of the road. Their bullpen will be about the same as their rotation, in the middle of the road. So my prediction is that the Toronto Blue Jays will have a great season again this year and will be a playoff contender this year. The Boston Red Sox, 80-82. The Boston Red Sox had a horrible season last year, finishing dead last in the AL East division. They haven't made the playoffs since they won the 2018 World Series. In the 2020 season, they won 24 games and lost 36 on that campaign. That was their worst winning percentage since 1965 with a .383 winning percentage. Last year, their offense scored 292 runs and ranked 11th in the league. They should have a good offense this season and will put up a lot of runs. Their starting rotation won't be that good this season and their bullpen won't be that great either. Maybe they can surprise us this season. So I absolutely think that the Boston Red Sox will be a competitive team this season but won't be a playoff contender this year. The Baltimore Orioles, 64-98. The Baltimore Orioles had a lot better season last year. They won 25 games and lost 35 in the shortened season and had a .417 winning percentage last year. Compared to the previous 2 seasons, last season was tremendous in winning percentage. So that was their best winning percentage since the 2017 season. They haven't made the playoffs since the 2016 season. Last year, their offense scored 274 runs and ranked 16th in the league. Their offense could be one of the worst in the league this season. Their starting rotation should be one of the worst rotations in the league, and their bullpen won't be as good as last season. So my prediction is that the Baltimore Orioles will finish dead last in the AL East division. So that's my AL East standings predictions for the 2021 season. Here you go. The Minnesota Twins, 93-69. The Minnesota Twins have won the AL Central 2 straight seasons in a row. They have made the playoffs in 3 of the last 4 seasons. Last year, they won 36 games and lost 24 on the season. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Houston Astros and got swept in 2 games. They haven't won a single postseason game since 2004. Their offense scored 269 runs last season and should be even better this year. They could potentially be a top 10 offense this year. Minnesota's starting rotation and bullpen were dominant last season. Their starting rotation should be as great as last year and could be a top 10 unit, and their bullpen should be a top 10 unit this season. So my prediction is that the Minnesota Twins will win the AL Central again for the 3rd time in a row and will be in a tough division. The Chicago White Sox, 91-71. The Chicago White Sox had a tremendous season last year by making the playoffs for the first time since the 2008 season. Last year, the Chicago White Sox won 35 games and lost 25 on the season. In the playoffs, they lost against the Oakland Athletics in 3 games. The Chicago White Sox have a top 5 offense in the league this season, and last season they scored 306 runs and ranked 5th in MLB. Chicago has a top 10 starting rotation this season and has the best bullpen in the league this year. I absolutely think that the Chicago White Sox will be a great team again this season and could maybe win the AL Central. They will be a playoff contender this season for the division title and as a wildcard team, and maybe they could make a World Series appearance this year. The Cleveland Indians, 81-81. The Cleveland Indians had a great season last year by making the playoffs after missing it the year before. In the 2020 season, they won 35 games and lost 25 on that campaign. In the playoffs, they played against the New York Yankees and got swept in 2 games. The Cleveland Indians offense scored 248 runs and ranked 24th in the league last season. This season, their offense lost a big piece in Francisco Lindor in a blockbuster trade with the New York Mets. With that piece missing, their offense could potentially struggle this season and could be the weakness of this team. Cleveland has a top 10 starting rotation this season, and that should be their strength, and their bullpen should be good this season. So my prediction is that the Cleveland Indians won't be as good as last season and will miss the playoffs this season, but still will be competitive this year. The Kansas City Royals, 72-90. The Kansas City Royals had a lot better season last year with a .433 winning percentage compared to the previous 2 seasons. The Royals won 26 games and lost 34 games last season. Kansas City hasn't made the playoffs since they won the 2015 World Series. Their offense scored 248 runs last season and ranked 24th in the league. This season, their offense should be better this year. The Royals' starting rotation could be better than a lot of people expect this season, and their bullpen could be middle of the road this year. I expect that the Kansas City Royals will be an improved team this season and will be a more competitive team overall this year. The Detroit Tigers, 65-97. The Detroit Tigers had a bad season last year by having their 4th consecutive season in a row under 400 winning percentage. Last season, the Tigers won 23 games and lost 35 on that campaign. They haven't made the playoffs since the 2014 season. The Tigers' offense scored 249 runs last season and ranked 23rd in the league. Their starting rotation struggled badly last season and had the worst ERA in the league. This season, the Tigers' starting rotation will be one of the worst in the league, and their bullpen could be better than the rotation this year. So my prediction is that the Detroit Tigers will have a better season this year than last season, and will finish dead last in the AL Central this season for the 3rd time in a row. So those are my AL Central standings predictions for the 2021 season. The Oakland Athletics, 88-74. The Oakland Athletics had a fantastic season last year by winning the AL West division for the first time since the 2013 season. Last season, the Athletics won 36 games and lost 24 games last year. In the playoffs last year, they played against the Houston Astros in the ALDS, and unfortunately, they lost that series in 4 games. The Oakland offense scored 274 runs last year and ranked 16th in the league. The Oakland Athletics offense should still be a threat this season and could potentially be a top 10 offense this year. Oakland has a top 10 starting rotation this season and also has a top 10 bullpen unit this year and will be the strength of the team this season. I absolutely think that the Oakland Athletics will be a great team again this season and will be a contender to win the AL West division crown this year. The Houston Astros, 86-76. The Houston Astros had a good season last year by making the playoffs for the 4th time in a row. Last year, the Astros won 29 games and lost 31 games in the shortened season, and their winning percentage was .483 on the year. In the playoffs, they played against the Tampa Bay Rays in the ALCS and lost that series in 7 games. Houston would have missed the playoffs last year if MLB stayed with a 10-team playoff format instead of a 16-team playoff format. The Astros offense scored 279 runs and ranked 14th in the league last season. This season, they should be as good or better this year and have potential to be a top 10 offense this season. Their starting rotation is pretty good and has potential to be a top 10 unit this season. Their bullpen should be good this season too. So my prediction is that the Houston Astros will be a better team this season and will be a playoff contender this year. The Los Angeles Angels, 82-80. The Los Angeles Angels had a dreadful season last year by missing the playoffs for a 6th consecutive season in a row. Last season, the Angels won 26 games and lost 34 games, and their winning percentage was the worst since the 1999 season. Their last playoff appearance came in the 2014 season. The Angels offense scored 294 runs last season and ranked 9th in the league. The Los Angeles Angels will have a great offense again this season with Mike Trout in the lineup. The Los Angeles Angels had the second worst starting rotation last season in ERA, and this season they should be better, but will be their Achilles heel this season. Their bullpen should be as good this season or better with a new closer at the back end of the bullpen. By all means, I think that the Los Angeles Angels will be a better team this season and could be a potential playoff contender this year as a wildcard team. The Seattle Mariners, 75-87. No team in major U.S. pro sports has gone longer than the Seattle Mariners without making the playoffs for 19 years. The Seattle Mariners had a lot better season last year than people thought they would. Last year, the Mariners won 27 games and lost 33 games and barely missed the playoffs last season. Their last playoff appearance came in the 2001 season when they won 116 games and lost 46. The Mariners' offense scored 254 runs last season and ranked 22nd in the league. Seattle's offense could be even better this season, but won't be a top 10 offense this year. The Seattle Mariners' starting rotation was in the middle of the road last season and will be okay this year. Their bullpen, though, was their weakness last season and should be an overall better unit this year. I absolutely think that the Seattle Mariners will be a more improved team this season and will be a more competitive team overall this season as their rebuild is coming to an end. The Texas Rangers, 67-95. The Texas Rangers had a dreadful season last year by being the worst team in the American League. Last season, they won 22 games and lost 38 and finished dead last in the AL West. They haven't made the playoffs since the 2016 season. The Rangers' offense scored 224 runs last season and ranked second to last in the league. Their offense should be a lot better this season, and it all begins with Joey Gallo, who was a 40-homer slugger in 2017 and 2018 and elite hitter in limited action in 2019. They also picked up a major wild card when they traded for Chris Davis, who was also a 4-homer guy with the Oakland Athletics in 2016 and 2018. The Texas Rangers starting rotation was one of the worst in the league last year in ERA. Their starting rotation could even be worse this season. Their bullpen unit won't be that much better this season. I absolutely think that the Texas Rangers will be one of the worst teams in the American League this season, and this will be the beginning of a rebuild in Texas. So that's my AL West standings predictions for the 2021 season. Here you go. The Atlanta Braves, 94-68. The Atlanta Braves had another great season, winning their third consecutive NL East Division title in a row. Last season, the Braves won 35 games and lost 25 games. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Los Angeles Dodgers in the NLCS and lost that series in 7 games. At one point in that series, Atlanta had a 3-1 series lead over the Dodgers and lost the final 3 games to them. The Braves' offense scored 348 runs last season and ranked second in the league. Their offense should be really good again this season and should score a lot of runs again this year. The Atlanta Braves starting rotation is a top 10 unit this season and could even be better if healthy. Their bullpen unit will be as good as last season and may even be better this year. My prediction is that the Atlanta Braves will win the NL East for the 4th time in a row and will have a deep playoff run. The New York Mets, 93-69. The New York Mets had a disappointing season last year by missing the playoffs for a 4th consecutive season in a row. Last year, they won 26 games and lost 34 games on the season. Their last playoff appearance came in the 2016 season, and since then, they have had only one winning season since then, and that season was in 2019. New York's offense scored 286 runs last season and ranked 13th in the league. In the offseason, they made a blockbuster trade with the Cleveland Indians that sent over Francisco Lindor to bolster their offense this season. Their offense should be a top 10 offense in the league this year. They have a top 5 starting rotation this season and also have a top 5 bullpen unit this season too. I positively think that they will be fighting for the NL East division title this season with Atlanta, and if they don't win their division, they will be a contender for a wildcard spot this season. The Washington Nationals, 85-77. The Washington Nationals had a disappointing season last year because they missed the playoffs after they won the 2019 World Series. Last season, the Nationals had a record of 26 wins and 34 losses on that campaign. Since the 2012 season, they have made the playoffs 5 times and making one World Series appearance in 2019. The Nationals' offense scored 293 runs last season and ranked 10th in the league. Their offense might not be as good as last season, but maybe they could surprise us and be pretty good again this season or even better. Their starting rotation will be the strength of the Washington Nationals this season and will be a top 5 starting rotation unit this year. Unfortunately, their bullpen won't be a top 10 unit this season, but they will be a little bit better overall this year. I absolutely think that the Washington Nationals will have a bounce-back season this year and could be a potential wild-card contender this season.
The Philadelphia Phillies, 84-78.
The Philadelphia Phillies had another disappointing season last year by not making the playoffs for their 9th consecutive season in a row. Last season, the Phillies won 28 games and lost 32 games. Their last playoff appearance came in the 2011 season. The Phillies' offense scored 306 runs last season and ranked 5th in the league. Their offense should be as good again this season and could potentially be a top 10 offense this year. The Philadelphia Phillies starting rotation could be pretty good this season with the additions of Matt Moore and Chase Anderson. But will that be enough to push their starting rotation to a top 10 unit in the league? Who knows for sure, but if everything goes right, they could be a pretty dominant unit this season. Maybe not the best, but they could be overall pretty good. Their bullpen unit will be their Achilles heel this season, but will be more improved this season than last year. I absolutely think that the Philadelphia Phillies will be a good team this season and could make a wildcard spot if everything goes right this year.
The Miami Marlins, 76-86.
The Miami Marlins had a tremendous season last year by making the playoffs for the first time since they won the 2003 World Series. Last year, the Marlins won 31 games and lost 29 on the season. In the playoffs last year, they played against the Atlanta Braves and got swept in that series in 3 games. Miami's offense scored 263 runs last season and ranked 21st in the league. This season, their offense won't be that bad, but won't be good either. Miami's offense should rank near the bottom of the league this season. Their starting rotation is a top 10 unit this year, and their bullpen will be improved this season. By all means, I think the Miami Marlins won't be a playoff team this season, but will be a competitive team this year.
So that's my NL East standings predictions for the 2021 season. Here you go. The St. Louis Cardinals, 90-72.
The St. Louis Cardinals had a pretty good season last year by making the playoffs for the 2nd time in a row. Last year, the Cardinals won 30 games and lost 28 games on that campaign. In the playoffs last season, they played against the San Diego Padres, and unfortunately, they lost that series in 3 games. The St. Louis offense scored 240 runs last season and ranked 3rd to dead last in that category in the league. This season, their offense should be a lot better this year, because of the huge blockbuster trade that got them Nolan Arenado from the Rockies. Their starting rotation was pretty bad last season. They should have a bounce-back year this season. They do have a top 10 bullpen this season and could even be better this year. I absolutely think that the St. Louis Cardinals will have a great season this year, and I predict that they will win the NL Central this season.
The Milwaukee Brewers, 84-78.
The Milwaukee Brewers had a good season last year by making the playoffs for the 3rd time in a row. That's the most playoff appearances in a row in franchise history. Last year, the Brewers won 29 games and lost 31 on the season. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Los Angeles Dodgers and got swept in that series in 2 games. Their offense scored 247 runs last season and ranked near the bottom of that category. I suspect that their offense will be improved this season, but won't be a top 10 offense this year. The Brewers' starting rotation will be good this season, and their bullpen could be one of the best in the league. I think that the Milwaukee Brewers will be a better team this season and could compete for a wildcard spot this year.
The Chicago Cubs, 83-79.
The Chicago Cubs had a tremendous season last year by winning their division for the first time since the 2017 season. Last year, the Cubs won 34 games and lost 26 games on the season. In the playoffs last year, they played against Miami Marlins, and unfortunately for them, they got swept in 2 games. The Cubs' offense scored 265 runs last year and ranked 20th in the league. I suspect that the Cubs' offense this season will be better this year overall. Chicago's starting rotation won't be as good as last season, but they could surprise us this year and be as good as last year or even better. Their bullpen should be as good again this season. So my prediction is that the Chicago Cubs will be a competitive team this season and will be a contender for a wildcard spot. It could potentially win the NL Central this year.
The Cincinnati Reds, 79-83.
The Cincinnati Reds had a great season last year because they made the playoffs for the first time since the 2013 season. Last season, the Reds won 31 games and lost 29 games on that campaign. In the playoffs last year, they played against the Atlanta Braves and got swept in that series in 2 games. They didn't score a single run in that series. Their offense scored 243 runs and ranked near the bottom of the league last season. This season, they should be a lot better overall. The Reds' starting rotation lost a big piece in the offseason in Trevor Bauer, and their starting rotation should be in the middle of the road this season. Their bullpen unit should be as good as last season. By all means, I think that the Cincinnati Reds will be a competitive team this season, could be a potential wildcard contender if everything goes right.
The Pittsburgh Pirates, 58-104.
The Pittsburgh Pirates had a dreadful season last year by being the worst team in the league. Last year they won 19 games and lost 41 on the season. Their last playoff appearance came in the 2015 season. The Pirates offense scored 219 runs last season and ranked dead last in that category in the league. This season their offense should be better, but they could still be the worst offense in the league this season. The Pirates have the worst starting rotation unit this season, and their bullpen unit won't fare much better either this year. I absolutely think that the Pittsburgh Pirates will be the worst team in the league this season and should lose over 100 games this year.
So that's my NL Central standings predictions for the 2021 season. Here you go. The Los Angeles Dodgers, 105-57.
The Los Angeles Dodgers won the 2020 World Series last year over the Tampa Bay Rays in 6 games. Last year, the Dodgers won 43 games and lost 17 games on the season. The Dodgers' offense scored 349 runs last year and ranked first in the league. This season, their offense will be the very best in the league this year. The Dodgers' starting rotation will be the very best unit this season, and their rotation features 3 Cy Young Award winners, and in the offseason, they signed Trevor Bauer. Their rotation has gotten richer this offseason, and the Dodgers have a staff capable of delivering a second straight World Series title. The Los Angeles Dodgers bullpen is a top 10 unit that should get even better this season. I absolutely think that the Los Angeles Dodgers will be the best team in the league and could potentially win a second World Series title in a row.
The San Diego Padres, 98-64.
The San Diego Padres had a tremendous season last year by making the playoffs for the first time since the 2006 season. Last year they won 37 games and lost 23 games on the season and had their best winning percentage in franchise history. In the playoffs last year they played against the Los Angeles Dodgers and got swept in that series in 3 games. The San Diego Padres offense scored 325 runs last season and ranked 3rd in that category in the league. This season their offense will be a top 5 offense in the league. Their starting rotation will be one of the best in the league this season, and their bullpen will be a top 5 unit this year. I absolutely think that the San Diego Padres will be a really great team again this season and will be contender for a wildcard spot this year.
The Arizona Diamondbacks, 78-84.
The Arizona Diamondbacks had a bad season last year by finishing dead last in the NL West. Last year they won 25 games and lost 35 games on the season. They haven't made the playoffs since the 2017 season. The Arizona Diamondbacks offense scored 269 runs last season and ranked 18th in the league. This season, Arizona should have a lot better offense this year, but most likely won't be a top 10 offense this season. Their starting rotation could be good this season, but most likely they will be in the middle of the road this season. The Arizona bullpen will be good this season and will be middle of the road unit. By all means, I think the Arizona Diamondbacks will be a competitive team this season, but most likely won't be a playoff contender this year.
The San Francisco Giants, 74-88.
The San Francisco Giants had a lot better season last year and almost made a playoff spot. Last season they won 29 games and lost 31 games on that campaign. The Giants' last playoff appearance came in the 2016 season, and since then they haven't had a winning season since. Their offense scored 299 runs last season and ranked 8th in the league. This year, their offense won't be as good as last season's numbers, but their offense will be middle of the road. Their starting rotation could be decent this season, but overall they could be one of the worst starting rotations in the league this year. I suspect that the San Francisco Giants will be somewhat competitive this season and won't finish dead last in the NL West.
The Colorado Rockies, 60-102.
The Rockies had a horrible season last year by missing the playoffs for a second straight season in a row. Last year they won 26 games and lost 34 games on the season. Their last playoff appearance came in the 2018 season. The Rockies' offense scored 275 runs last season and ranked 15th in the league. This season their offense will be one of the worst in the league this year, and that's because they traded Nolan Arenado to St. Louis, which that pretty much leaves Trevor Story and Charlie Blackmon as the Rockies' only great players left on the team. I suspect that they will trade those guys at the trade deadline this July. Their starting rotation won't be that good this season, but will be better than their bullpen unit this year. So my prediction is that the Rockies will be competing against the Pittsburgh Pirates as the worst team in the league this season.
That's my NL West standings predictions for the 2021 season. Here you go. Who do you think will be the best team in MLB this season? Join me in the comment section below and tell me what you guys think. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit that notification bell to be notified on new videos in the future. Please share this video with friends and family. My name is Nathan. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to just keep loving sports and I'll see you next time.